Today we're going to be watching a video from Wikizilla titled Skullcrawlers Kaiju Profile. Now I personally find Skullcrawlers fascinating, so today we're going to have a chance of learning more about them and basically kind of being educated by Wikizilla. Knowledge, baby! Wikizilla's link is going to be down in the description below, so do go and check the original video out. Smash that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and let's get on with this. Wikizilla!
Hey Kaiju fans, I'm the boy who cried Godzilla, and today we'll be taking a look at the devils who live below us. The
Skullcrawlers! Okay, Elias's Halakra Skull Devil, Ramark, and number 10. So the height is from 12 to 95 feet, length 35 to 194, which is pretty long, and weigh up to 100,000 tons. Lowest 40 to 100, that is heavy. These things are savages. Oh yeah. Just the two hands is like,
better known as Skullcrawlers, debuted in the second MonsterVerse film, Kong Skull Island.
Kong Skull Island.
Ravenous, subterranean
epic movie.
Megafauna forever trying to conquer the island and kill Kong, the last of the giant apes they've fought for eons. In 1973, the Eighth Wonder conquered an enormous skull devil in defense of the few surviving members of a monarch expedition. Skullcrawlers continued to plague the island in the decades that followed, although Kong's continued growth made them less of a threat. By 2024, Apex Cybernetics was stockpiling to test.
I remember that. They become a test for MechaGodzilla. What a test! But it was just so easy for MechaG to just take them out. Like, it was nice.
Anti-Titan machine, MechaGodzilla.
So their design.
Kong Skull Island director Jordan.
That's the director of Skull Island.
Nemesis of his movie to be a dinosaur.
Yeah, you don't want the basic dinosaurs and stuff. He wanted something extra, something. Oh, that was sick.
A creature with a sawtooth mouth. While Stephanie Lavoie's
saw in the mouth
that used a Kong
imagine that
for protection. Vo Roberts eventually steered the design team towards a two-legged lizard inspired by the monster from The Host, and the only spider pit creature to make it into the original 1933 King Kong. Berger named Simon Lee as the artist who had the greatest influence on the final design. Vo Roberts called it this crazy fusion of all the influences throughout my life.
That is insane. The amount of time and effort and knowledge these guys put into creating, designing, coming up with the idea, the whole concept. Amazing.
Angel from Evangelion, No-Face from Spirited Away, and Cubone from Pokemon. The number of Skullcrawlers in the film gradually grew from 1 to 4. First, the filmmakers decided to deploy a second, smaller beast in the boneyard.
The smaller one, yeah.
As visual effects supervisors.
But they're so huge even compared to the humans.
The was so large that a person would be nothing more than an insignificant snack.
Exactly.
And would not be much fun to watch. Then
it's like having a peanut.
Kong earlier in the
that's what a human is to them.
Up a long stretch of exposition. The creature's name was even more volatile, from MacArthur to Mac to Dweller to Skullcrawler. Thanks to
I prefer the Skullcrawler name personally.
Consideration for the
it's much better name personally for me.
Later, the Godzilla vs. Kong novelization added one more, Halakra, or persistent enemy in the Iwi language. The animators at Industrial Light and Magic found the unusual build of the Skullcrawlers a challenge. They ended up using the movements of snakes, Komodo dragons, iguanas, deer, and buffalo as references.
I actually didn't know that. That is insane. So in order to create their movement, they've had to like kind of get different creatures and animals, like their movement. Wow, okay.
It was a real challenge to sort of figure out the anatomy of that creature. The director came to us with the idea that the top of his body and the rib cage should be sort of translucent. You could see the bones.
You can see the bones like a rib cage.
Geometry inside your body.
My boy, they're Kong with that hit. Wow.
According to Vo Roberts, the whole idea was that this creature was like a bastard of evolution. It evolved wrong. It has a very painful existence. Its movement is awkward at times. Their roars were influenced by dying rabbits, sea lions, and squirrels.
Wow.
An earlier version of
I thought it was like children's voices used, or is that what he
Godzilla
mimics?
vs. Kong
Okay, that's
called
the
for
mimic.
MechaGodzilla to execute a number
I
of
get
different
that, okay.
monsters in Apex's testing facility. Number 10, a Skullcrawler larger and more colorful than others of its species, was the only one to make it into the movie. In the audio commentary, Adam Wingard adds somewhat cryptically that originally they were in the opening too and they just got blown up. The Skullcrawler eggs Team Godzilla encountered on the Apex transport.
I didn't realize that. Wow, okay. You see, this is knowledge.
Large props. 2 of them traveled to New York City right before the movie came out for display in Tamashii Nation's pop-up shop. The particulars
So
of
the origin we know is in Skull Island from, you know, Kong's parents' time.
Skullcrawler war depend on who's telling the story. In Kong's Skull Island, Hank Marlowe explains that the iwi feared all of the island's monstrous inhabitants for thousands of years before Kong's species suddenly started protecting them. He assigned the Skull Devil sole blame for killing Kong's parents. In Skull Island, The Birth of Kong, mythographer Walter Riccio experienced a vision of the Skullcrawlers invading Skull Island millions
I don't
of
know
years
that
ago,
bit.
with the Kongs defending their territories. Over the following centuries, the reptiles whittled the apes down to one mated pair, who met the Iwi
Exactly.
when they first arrived
Kong's
on the island's
parents.
shores and became their protectors. Kong was born during their final stand against at least 5 gigantic skullcrawlers.
And then they
He
died,
was sealed
leaving
away in a
only
cave by his
Kong.
mother before she perished. Driven by vengeance, he would become the monster's most fearsome foe.
And the most
opening credits
awesome
of
one
Godzilla
as well.
vs. Kong suggest that Skullcrawlers were also involved in the Godzilla-Kong War, which took place millennia ago in the Hollow Earth, the Kong's original home. The GVK novelization tries to resolve some of these inconsistencies with some of the
Even for me, the whole concept of Hollow Earth is amazing. Like, just like you can't get into Hollow Earth, it's like difficult with storms, bad weather.
Against the Skullcrawlers came in 1973. Monarch agents William Randa, Houston Brooks, and Lin San had latched themselves onto a Landsat expedition to Skull Island. Once they passed through the perpetual storm surrounding the island,
This is what I'm talking
the Sky
about.
Devil's helicopter squadron
How hard
began
is it to
dropping
get to...
seismic
It's like
charges to gather
Skull Island
information
has
from
its
the island's
own
surface.
kind of
They found
weather
that the bedrock
system.
was practically hollow, seeming to vindicate Brooks' Hollow Earth theory. The blasts angered Kong, who rooted the Sky Devils. The
Yeah.
vengeful Lieutenant Colonel Preston
Kong
Patrick
just wants
led
peace
one
in
group of
his Skull
survivors.
Island.
Tracker James Conrad led another, and Major Jack Chapman found himself alone
Oh.
with a crashed sea
Dead
cell
meat.
full of explosives.
Are we gonna see that?
Conrad's group encountered the evil
No.
Hank Marlowe, an American soldier who had been stranded on the island since World War II. He told them about
That is
Kong's
actually a
role as
long
guardians.
time. I remember watching the movie and then it's like, this guy's been there for so long and then nobody even knows he's there. He's there with like these tribal people and it's just like, wow. And he actually has no news of the outside world whatsoever as well.
Skull Island,
It was
and the
fascinating.
dangers posed by the Skullcrawlers, who had emerged from steam vents since the seismic charges fell. As he spoke, 2 of the monsters felled a Skur buffalo and tried to ambush Kong,
Yeah.
but he quickly dispatched them. Another Skullcrawler
There were no match for...
successfully ambushed Chapman.
There you go.
After the 2 groups reunited, they
Wow.
encountered it in the boneyard where Kong's parents fell. It ate
Oh, this
Randa
bit is
and
sick.
cut further into the Sky Devil's ranks.
The way they
Photographer
burned them
Mason Weaver
down.
finally managed to kill it by throwing
Flamethrower.
Conrad's lighter into a vent, expelling flammable gas. With Packard still determined to kill Kong, heedless of the havoc the Skullcrawlers would wreak in his absence, the humans split up once more. Conrad and Weaver communed with Kong just before
Big
Packard
mistake
lured
when
him
the
into a
humans
trap
do
with
that,
more seismic
separate.
charges.
Oh, I
While his
hated it
plan
when I
was
saw
successful,
Kong proper
it also
burnt
called
up.
the dreaded Skull Devil. Kong summoned enough strength to smash Packard flat, but the monster easily
Good.
defeated him, then unwisely turned its attention to the rest of the humans.
Run,
Caught up with them
girl!
by morning and proved clever enough to bat away Captain Earl Cole before he could set off a pair.
That was so stupid of him. Like, I don't know why he had to do that, like, make himself like a suicide bomber. Why can't you just, okay, you are gonna explode and kind of throw the bag somehow? I don't know. Maybe trick him
As
somehow.
it
Why
closed
did you have
on
to
the
have
nest,
it on your
Kong joined the
body?
fight by slamming a boulder into its face.
Oh.
They were evenly matched.
Oh, this
until the
bit is
Skull Devil
sick.
threw Kong
He
into
gets
a
that
graveyard
ship,
of ships, trapping him in chains.
What, a propeller?
It prepared to finish him, but
Is that what
Brooks
it's called?
and
And then he
Son
starts
strapped
hitting him?
Marlowe's boat
That
with
was
great
insane.
force, and Weaver took out one of its eyes with a flare gun. Kong freed himself
Not really.
just in time to save them all in turn. plunging
There.
a boat propeller into its shoulder.
Yeah, the
He
boat
threw it
propeller.
into a hillside,
The
causing
way
Luke to
he's
fall into
punching
the
him
water
with it
below.
is
Kong used the
insane.
propeller again to slash the Skull Devil's throat before rescuing her, but it wasn't dead. Biting onto his left arm before wrapping its prehensile tongue around his
Big
right.
mistake.
The
Put
battle
your hand
came down
inside.
to a contest of pure strength, and Kong prevailed, ripping out the Skull Devil's tongue and guts. He'd avenged his parents,
That's painful.
proving himself the king of Skull Island.
Definitely the king of Skull
In
Island.
1996, Brooks and Son's son Aaron led an unauthorized Monarch expedition back to Skull Island. While there, and
I
under the
don't know any
influence
of this
a
stuff.
hallucinogen known as monkey juice, mythographer Walter R. Riccio experienced visions of all the stuff I said in the origin section. The Skullcrawler threat had receded, though the group still had to evade 2 of them in the boneyard. By 2021, Kong had grown too large for the Skullcrawlers to challenge, even once
Exactly.
approximately the same size as the Skull Devil.
No,
After
Kong's
Godzilla
grown.
inexplicably
He's
attacked
gonna
an
fight
Apex cybernetic
Godzilla,
site
the
in
G-Man.
2024, an unlikely trio began investigating the company. Monarch agent-in-waiting Madison Russell, her hapless friend Josh Valentine, and a conspiracy podcaster
With this
Bernie
bit,
Hale.
the biggest thing for me was how all 3 of them could just get into like something so big. Like it's obviously costing billions and billions of dollars going in and investing into it, making MechaG, and then these guys just randomly walk in like, no.
Beneath the site's ruins, they discovered a transcontinental tram service and stumbled onto a transport bound
Yeah.
for Apex headquarters in Hong Kong.
Take you down to Hong
Inside,
Kong.
They were stunned to find a clutch of Skullcrawler eggs. Apex's interest in the monsters became clear when they entered a sacrifice pit, and MechaGodzilla rose
The
into view.
Skullcrawlers are no
CEO
match
Walter
for
Simmons
MechaG
ordered the
here.
release of a gigantic
Like, the
Skullcrawler
way he just-
called Number 10 from its
No
pack.
way.
It
The
lunged
Proton
at Madison,
Scream?
but
Yes, I
MechaGodzilla
remember
caught it
that.
mid-leap. The Predator became helpless prey as the machine sliced
There.
it in half with a Proton Scream.
That was one of the best scenes for me.
The Skullcrawler's weapons
MechaG
of
just
choice are their
ripping
teeth,
him up with
claws,
the
prehensile
Proton
tails, and
Scream.
prehensile tongues. The Skull Devil used its tail to grapple Kong and even throw him. In the novelization, it nearly killed him with a cruel ivory barb on the
In the
tip of its
novel,
tail.
not
This
in the
weapon also
movie.
appeared in a piece of concept art by Stephanie Levallois. The Skull Devil held up well against Kong's blows and improvised weapons, though his sheer strength finally allowed him to kill it. Any Skullcrawler smaller than him stands little chance, although they are an enormous threat to humans at any size. Bullets can pierce their skin, but only serve as a distraction.
They hardly
at
do
best.
any damage,
They seem
though.
to be more vulnerable to elemental attacks.
Fire.
The weapon that proved most effective against a smaller Skullcrawler was a flamethrower, and a gas explosion ultimately killed it. MechaGodzilla's Proton Scream easily bisected a larger one
Proton
at
Scream,
only
come on.
40%
Of course
power.
that's gonna just shred
As
them.
malevolent as the Skullcrawlers might seem, they can't help it. Monarch's superspecies profile states that the monsters possess such a hyper-adrenalized metabolism that they exist in a constant state
Yeah,
of starvation.
they constantly want to
Even number
eat.
10
That's
couldn't resist
crazy.
charging at a trio of humans who are about the size of Tic Tacs to it, ignoring the inorganic MechaGodzilla. In the Kong Skull Island novelization, Skullcrawlers can mimic the
Mimicry.
sounds of crying human children. One used this trick to lure Marlowe's enemy-turned-friend, Gunpei Ikari, to his death.
Trivia.
There are 2 other obscure cases of 2-legged serpents in Godzilla and King Kong media.
This stuff
In
I
the
have no
Godzilla
clue
and
about.
Hiragana OVA, Mothra challenged the other monsters to think of impossible animals whose names start with ha, he, hu, he, or ho. Baragon came up with a snake doing push-ups. The sinister archaeologist Ramon de la Porta created a
That
much
was so
deadlier
funny.
creature in the 3rd episode of Kong the Animated Series by merging with a giant snake. De la Porta's new form actually beat Kong, but only after rubble fell on them.
No, the
I've
form
talked
of
about the
current
Kong Skull Island
Skullcrawlers is the
novelization
best.
by Tim Levin in this video already, but there are a few other differences from the film worth mentioning. In this telling, Kong's brawl against the 2 smaller Skullcrawlers was completely absent. Instead, Packard watched him trigger a rock slide to seal one of the monster's burrows. Cole's sacrificial grenade actually worked, although the Skull Devil was only briefly stunned. Kong's
It didn't
finishing blow
work?
against it came from a punch thrown so far into its throat that it crushed its innards. Also, San observed that a Skullcrawler had gills during the Boneyard fight. suggesting they could get off the island and plague the rest of the world.
No, that would be insane if they were to get out,
the
like by themselves, without human aid.
Ghidorah's alpha call.
Imagine they just swimming around in all the oceans and coming out to mainland.
Godzilla vs. Kong novelization, also by Keys, if you were hoping for it to explain how Apex obtained so many Skullcrawlers, I'm sorry to disappoint you. It did.
That's exactly what I was wondering. Like, how did Apex get them?
Skullcrawler army. The Skullcrawlers' first appearance in a game was, depressingly enough, the Empire DCX slot machine Monsterverse in 2020. You could also fight them in PUBG Mobile's Titan Strikes
yeah, I've
mode,
seen this.
or let the larger monsters take them out. With a Skull Island animated series in the works.
I've got a video on this with Kong, Godzilla fighting MechaG.
Netflix. The Skullcrawlers.
I'll leave a link below if I remember.
Reign of terror. But we figured you'd already waited long enough for this video. Thanks for your patience.
Insane video. Thank you, Wikizilla. That was a very informative video from Wikizilla about Skullcrawlers. I definitely learned a few new things, and I hope you did as well. Smash that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you soon.